Spending more time on social media than we want to be or that we know is good for us is a big issue for many among us. And it's because social media is meant to be addictive. So today we're going to talk about healthy social media use, unhealthy social media use, what the difference is, and how to really get a handle on this one so that we feel in charge of how much social media we are consuming, so that we feel good about our social media use and don't feel like it's controlling us. If you're new to me and this is the first time we're connecting, my name is Kristina, and I'm a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, and an online course creator. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I work to help men and women get through the crap that is holding them back so they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And not feeling in charge or in control of our social media use really can bring us down, can really get in our way. And of course, there's some really good things about social media, but there's also some things that are not so good. And interestingly enough, if you feel yourself kind of being pulled to it or almost addicted to social media, it's not entirely your fault. That these apps and these platforms are actually designed and intentionally supposed to be addictive so that you keep coming back for more. So when you log in and you see how many hearts you got, or you see how many follows you got, or you see how many likes you got, or how many subscribes you got, or whatever it is, that you get this sort of hit of dopamine. And dopamine is that feel-good chemical that releases in our brain that makes us feel really good, and it keeps us coming back for more. So as soon as you log off, a few minutes later, you're like, oh, I just want to go and check and see how many reactions, how many positive reactions I got to whatever it is that I posted. So it's meant to make us keep coming back for more. But why social media can be harmful to us, why it can be no good for us, is if we notice ourselves getting sucked in and maybe putting things off, or procrastinating, or not reaching our goals, or not feeling good at the end of our day because we let social media kind of take over and spend way more time on it than we are intending to. Or maybe if we're going on and we're ending up comparing ourselves to other people, or feeling bad about ourselves, or feeling like our lives aren't as like wonderful and beautiful and glamorous and connected and happy, that even though we know that people are just kind of putting up their highlight reel, after enough of it, it can really start to feel like we're the only ones who go through emotional ups and downs. We're the only ones whose lives aren't always beautiful and roses and sunshine and wonderful. Another thing is that when we're spending too much time on social media, we're not being present in our real lives and our real relationships, in our in-person relationships. And we can oftentimes miss out on experiencing real life when we're always sort of looking at images or videos of other people's lives. But the truth is that social media isn't all bad. Of course it's not all bad. I'm here on social media, and I wouldn't be if it was all bad, because there are oftentimes really good things on there. There's really helpful things. There's really healthy things. Oftentimes on like Facebook, there's communities, there's groups that people do interact with, that people are creating real relationships in a lot of these groups. And so what research has shown is that kind of the main difference between healthy social media use and unhealthy social media use is the difference between active and passive engagement. So what that means is that if you're someone who just sort of gets on there and just sort of like scrolls and looks and just sort of kind of takes stuff in, that's not usually as good, that's not usually as healthy. If you're just sort of passively consuming social media, it's not typically great, according to the research. But if you're actively engaging, if you're interacting with people, if you're building real relationships, if you're participating on social media, then research actually shows that can be good for us. Of course, and obviously not all day and all the time, because real life experiences and real life interactions and real life relationships are vital and essential for us, but that the more we're kind of actively participating on social media, the better it is for us. So now we're going to go through 5 things that you can do to feel more in charge of and in control of your social media use. If you often find that you're getting sucked into it, that you're checking it more often than what feels right for you, that if you notice that it's become kind of an issue or a problem in your life, that you may be even feeling addicted to it, these are 5 simple things that you can do to start feeling more in charge and in control of your social media use so that it's being used for good and not so much for the things that are not so good. And so the first one, and really simply, when you're on social media, check in with yourself. Check in with yourself around how you felt before you went on and how you felt after you logged off. So if you feel better after being on there, then maybe taking note of the things that you did or the groups that you participated in or the connections that you made. But if you're feeling worse, pay attention to that. What is it? What's coming up for me? Why am I feeling worse after going on social media than I was feeling before I went on? And am I consuming things that I'm finding healthy or beneficial or uplifting, or am I getting sucked into things that aren't so good for me, that leave me feeling bad, or leave me feeling in fear, or make me feel not so good about myself? So just really checking in with ourselves. I think a lot of times we forget to listen to ourselves. We forget to pay attention. What is actually good for me and what isn't? And to be really respecting that within ourselves, which leads us to the next one. And number 2 is to unfollow people or pages that are not feeling good, that are not bringing out good things in us, that are making us feel uncomfortable or not good about ourselves or triggering us. And yeah, if we're getting triggered by things that someone posts, if we're feeling sort of inferior or insecure or bad about ourselves after looking at their stuff, there might be a deeper issue going on that we need to address and deal with and explore. But in the meantime, it's okay to unfollow. It's okay to not be exposing ourselves to that stuff. It's okay to not be taking it in, that we're allowed to have boundaries. If it's not working, stop doing it. If it is working, do more of it. It's not rocket science. The next one, and this is a really basic one, but can be really helpful, to just turn your ringer, your notifications, your dings, your bings, your bongs, your booms, to turn them off. Or keep your devices in a different room altogether when you don't want to be getting pulled into it and you don't want to get distracted by it. Maybe if you're with friends or you're with your kids or with your family, keeping the phone away, keeping it in your purse, keeping it in your pocket, turning the ringer off, turning even like the vibrator mode off so you don't get those indications when something's coming in, so it's not distracting you, it's not pulling you away, it's not sucking you in, you're not having to deal with the temptation. It's a lot easier to not succumb to temptation when the temptation isn't right there beeping or dinging in our face, when it's in another room. And I actually use this one when I'm home, especially when I'm home with my kids, is I just keep my phone in an entirely different room so that I'm not tempted to check. I'm not tempted to look at it. I'm not tempted to get sucked in when I really want to be making sure that I'm right there and present with them. If it's with friends, like I said, friends or your partner or kids or whoever. And this next one, number 4, comes from a good friend of mine. And what she said is what's really helped her is to remove those addictive apps every night at a certain time. So if it's like 8 or 9 o'clock, she just deletes the apps right from her phone so that as she's winding down and getting ready for bed and even in bed, she's not tempted to just go on and scroll and kind of get sucked in. And I have a whole other video about how to turn our thoughts off at night and go to sleep. And I talk more in depth about why being on a screen right before bed can really disrupt our sleep and make it really hard for us to fall asleep. So I'll put a link to that in the description below. So just removing those apps, it takes away the convenience. It just takes away that ease of just being able to click on the app and go in. It removes that step and makes it, of course we can always just re-download the app on the phone right away, but it takes a few more minutes and it's a little bit more of a barrier and it makes it a little bit more difficult, which makes it less likely for us to do it. And then the next day, she just reloads those apps, takes a few minutes and reloads the apps onto her phone when she feels like it's okay for her to be getting back on and checking again. And then number 5, our last one, is to really work on being intentional with our use, being really mindful with our use. Am I using this to get on and connect with others, to take in something that's like healthy or useful or productive? And really being intentional with that. Or even if it is that we're just getting on to turn our brains off and to just have a little bit of entertainment and to just escape for a little bit, that's totally fine. Of course, like social media is really entertaining at the same time, and it's okay to be entertained by it and to just want to, just have a little bit of a break and to just turn our minds off, but to actually be intentional with that choice and not just letting ourselves get sucked mindlessly into it. So being mindful and intentional with our use, feeling in charge of our social media use so that it's not controlling us, having boundaries around it, being more mindful of it, checking in with ourselves. And speaking of boundaries, I have a document for you. It's called 25 Ways to Say No. For those among us who maybe struggle with having healthy boundaries, this is a really great one for learning just how to say no. If we're uncomfortable with saying no, especially in relationships and in different situations, maybe not so much with social media. Like we don't need to say no to social media overtly or learn how to say no to social media. But this one will really help those among us who just struggle to have healthy boundaries in general. You can grab that. The link will be in the description. 25 Ways to Say No. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this one out. Let's talk about feeling more in charge of social media and not feeling like social media is controlling us. Come on over and join my Facebook group, goodformegroup.com, full of some of the most kind, supportive, encouraging, and fun men and women. Come on over and join us. Let's stay connected. Until next time, take good care.